All right, so this is about Pastor Greg Locke of the Global Vision Bible Church in Tennessee, and he went on a crazy right-wing rant where he insisted that Joe Biden is, quote, demon-possessed and that Trump is still president. This is amazing. Take a look.
God's about to bring the whole house down, ladies and gentlemen. These bunch of sex trafficking mongrels are about to be exposed. These bunch of pedophiles in Hollywood are going to be exposed for who they are. I don't care what you think about fraudulent Sleepy Joe. He's a sex trafficking, demon-possessed mongrel. He's of the left. He ain't no better than the Pope and Oprah Winfrey and Tom Hanks and the rest of that wicked crowd. God is going to bring the whole house down. I said he's going to bring the whole house down. He's going to burn the whole thing to the ground. He's going to expose all these bunch of pedophiles. I'm telling you, he's going to expose Kamala Harris for the Jezebel demon that she is.
Cenk, thoughts?
Look, man, he had me at Jezebel demon. This guy's old school. This guy's old, Jezebel. Really, we're going back to Jezebel. That's what we're going back to, okay? Let alone mongrel. I mean, I haven't heard mongrel in a while. But really, is it that crazy? I mean, this is, with less yelling, this is probably where you're getting in a lot of churches across the country. I mean, why do you think 2/3 of Republicans, 1/3 of the country thinks that Joe Biden is fraudulent and stole the election, et cetera? Because they're hearing it from so-called leaders like this. And yeah, I mean, he's nuts. But to me, another amazing part was, okay, so we got the Pope. Apparently, this is old school Protestant too. The Catholics are no good. I think the KKK used to throw Catholics in there with the Jews and they used to say the Turks for referring to Muslims for all the evil people in the world. And then you got Oprah. Okay, so poor Oprah, I get it. She hits every demographic they despise, and I feel terrible for her. But then I never understood the Tom Hanks thing, right? And then today I was thinking about it, man, they're obsessed with hating Tom Hanks. Who hates Tom Hanks? Like what, that's so random, right? And then I thought, Brett, oh, maybe it's not random. He played a gay character who had AIDS in Philadelphia, and in Bosom Buddies, he was cross-dressing. So maybe like they think that he's gay or something, and so they're like, oh, okay, yeah, Oprah, she's black, and who else are we gonna throw in there? Oh, Tom Hanks, I saw that movie, he's gay. And because as long as we're making stuff up, right?
Yeah, it's like who else can I add to this list of generally well-liked people if you have an opinion about them whatsoever? Like, I get the Oprah thing, but like, not really even that. Like Oprah, the person who gave all those cars to people. Like the only Oprah bit lately has been like, who is entertaining like some interviews with Harry and Meghan. Like I wouldn't even pull Oprah out of the zeitgeist, grab bag. That's what's so weird. And that's the particular flavor that I love the most is the folks that they choose to fixate on. Because at that point, when they're in their tent revival or whatever, this is the same group that you're right. Like the KKK throws them in with the, I like that he cherry picks other groups that have bad things as though that completely represents all of them. But like tent revivals where you're demonizing Catholics and you're leaving out the fact that like tent revivals that look a lot like this end up with burning crosses on people's lawns. Like, and I'm not saying that this guy does it. And I know he's going on like this like litigious warpath right now. But this is simply just I don't even need to go past what happened in this revival, or whatever this speech was that he gave. It's just so crazy what he has chosen to fixate on. But that's not it. There's more behind it. He also had additional thoughts on the January 6th Capitol riots.
Oh, thank God.
So let's take a listen to that. Yeah.
I don't know why pastors don't talk about this stuff. Well, I do. They don't want to seem crazy. I'm already crazy. People like, do you really think it's that much of an epidemic? Do you honestly believe, how are we going to get some more crazy? Do you honestly believe, Pastor Locke, that the military uncovered tunnels beneath the Capitol building and beneath the White House and in the Five-Fingered Lakes? Do you really believe that they found kids? Yeah, both live ones and dead ones. And if you disagree with that, and if you try to discount that, and if you try to cover that, and if you try to keep that on the DL, you're just as complicit as Hunter Biden and the rest of them bunch of crack-smoking perverts.
I have not seen that much of the video until this moment.
I had.
Here's what I like about it. I like that this guy, who is theoretically out there to, spread the word of God as a preacher, right? Lessons and the word, like to take them earnestly. Lessons about the word of God. This guy makes it so much about him. They call me, I'm crazy. You talk about Pastor Tim, Pastor Greg or whatever. Like, dude, these things, if you are doing what you say you're out there to do, like what spreading the word of the Lord is, this whole thing is about you and these crazy theories about Finger Lake catacombs full of kids. Like, just take a second and realize that, like, I went to Catholic school. Sorry, I was a half Jew, half Protestant in a Catholic school, but we read the Bible, and there's a lot of crazy ass stuff in there. But like that aspect of it, I don't see how in this day and age you can take this as your marching orders for what to do. Okay,
let's continue on the funny stuff, and then I'll have something serious at the end. It's so hard to pick my favorite line. The crack smoking perverts. I mean, if I had $1 for every crack smoking pervert I knew. Well, actually, I'd have a lot, because the story I told earlier in the bonus episode, because of the people who were trying to buy crack at the motel that I was staying at. Okay, but anyways, and then the Five-Fingered Lakes. No, there's the Finger Lakes, and sometimes they're called the Five-Finger Lakes. They're definitely not called the Five-Fingered Lakes. Okay, but it's tough to beat. I'm already crazy. Well, look, got to give them points for honesty on that one. Hard to argue. That's the one part that was super hard to argue with. But Brett, the serious point is, everyone in that room was having the time of their lives, agreeing 100% with them. I mean, you saw they're ecstatic, they're clapping like crazy, etc. And the folks in that room think we're crazy. They think, oh my God, those guys, they don't even believe in the satanic cults and the underground Finger Lakes and the dead kids and and I mean, those guys are nuts, and they think we're totally crazy. And so we live in not just the little different realities. These folks live amongst us, and they think we live amongst them. And then every once in a while, cable news anchors will say that we should do kumbaya. How do you do kumbaya with them? I mean, which of the Fingered Lakes do we go to do the kumbaya? We don't even agree that we should use logic. They don't. Or facts or anything. I don't know what to do with America when we have two massively different realities.
I'm already crazy.
I don't either. and this guy's apparently so. Things kind of devolved into. It was reported by Newsweek. So the crazy pastor then threatened the publication of Newsweek. I do want to say before we play this, like, how can you bring a lawsuit against someone for essentially, I guess it's and forgive me if I'm wrong, but like for calling out the crazy things you're proclaiming when you yourself have already admitted that you are crazy. It's at that point, they're just reporting your own words back to you. But here's how that part of it went.
Newsweek has been covering us for the last few months, nearly every single week. Hands down, almost every single week, without fail or without question, they do an anti-Greg Locke and anti-Global Vision Bible Church rant. But this past week, they crossed the line. I made the statement, for which, by the way, I stand by my statement and won't apologize. I said, in regards to our First Amendment, we've always kept our church open and we would never close. And if they come to our tent to impede upon our First Amendment right, then we'll meet them at the door of the tent with our Second Amendment right.
Cool. This guy, here's what my take on it. This is just my personal opinion on what this guy is doing. It's all about the beginning of it. Now, Newsweek has been covering us for an entire week, and I am loving every second of it. That's why I do my hair just like this. That's why I spend most of my day on that. That's why I go do the Pilates that I have been doing, the power Pilates, so I get this hottie Christ body. And he loves every single second of it. And it's possible that, to interpret from his actions, that maybe he felt bad that he wasn't being covered anymore, so he needed to up the ante. And that aspect of it is in every part of the news, in everybody. And the thing I would like to equate him with is like Tucker Carlson does the exact same thing. They're using the same buzzwords. They're always trying to get crazier and crazier. And it's not because they necessarily want the biggest tent. They just feel like they are as happiest. They're perfectly content to cater to this specific audience and maybe grow it marginally. But to create that fervor, that detached, like speaking in tongues ecstasy that, will keep people coming back. And really, the way I feel about pastors like this is line their pockets. And I hope that someone does research into his closets to find out how many skeletons are in there, because usually that's where you find the most of them. I'm not saying that that's what's happening, but I'm saying, like, if all the people that he's accusing of doing these terrible, terrible things, it just seems like he's kind of making himself out to be suspect number one for the bad behavior. And again, like, this is the exact kind of stuff that Jesus, see, there he is, there's this whole crowd outside. But this is the kind of stuff that if you read about Jesus would tell you not ever to do.
Yeah, so my last thoughts on this. First of all, he says, Newsweek, I can't believe they covered me and then quoted me correctly. And the downside is where? So they quoted you on using your Second Amendment rights. What is that a reference to? It's not a reference to rainbows and ponies. It's a reference to weapons and using them if the government comes to enforce a legal regulation or law. So you're basically threatening that you might use guns to kill government officials. Okay, I mean, you just said it right there. I might use my Second Amendment rights. What else do you mean by Second Amendment rights? Oh, if the government comes here to shut down our revival here at the tent, we're gonna use our Second Amendment rights and go hunting instead. Probably not. Okay, it doesn't seem like that's what you meant. But look, I talked to a couple of QAnon people on the conversation, and so there's two layers to this. One is they genuinely believe in the religious mythology, so they think, and one of them said this to me: we drink the blood of Christ every Sunday, and we eat his body every Sunday in communion. And so, of course, the Satan worshipers are eating drinking the blood of the children and eating their body. They think that's a perfectly rational thing to think, right? And so I'm stunned by that. I hope you guys are stunned by that. But there's tons and tons, millions upon millions of people in this country that think that's a perfectly rational sentence, right?
It doesn't make any sense because, like, it's not that the people at communion are eating actual bodies of the whatever it would be. If it's not the innocents, it's the wicked that then turns into the blood of Christ and the body of Christ. They're eating Nilla wafers, man.
No, but I think that some of them think it's literal. Like, I get that the overwhelming majority know that it's not literal. It's a wafer, obviously,
Catholics,
right?
But the thing is, Catholics, it doesn't make sense for Christians to think, for Protestants to think that, Lutherans, Episcopalians, all that. It only makes sense for Catholics to believe that, because Catholics believe in transubstantiation, which is after the dude in the robes says the Eucharist, it turns into the body and blood of Christ. That's only Catholics. And Martin Luther was like, that's weird. It just symbolizes it that the Son of God did all these crazy things. So the Christians shouldn't be in that anyway. It makes less sense for the Christians to be there in that sense, but in the sense of speaking in tongues, writhing on the floor, getting bitten by snakes and poisonous snakes and believing your way through it. Like, it is in line with that. And I'm not saying this guy's doing any of that. I'm just saying that, like, I do want to point out this one last thing, that over time, this is the last graphic, GOP voters have actually, through stuff like this, left to their own devices to just ruminate in the copium den over Trump. GOP voters have become less likely to blame Trump for January 6th over time. They have had time to think about it. And after reviewing all the evidence, it's not just that they get to talk to each other for a long time and be like, actually, no, I've changed my mind because no one's holding me accountable. And I'm that much further from the facts. Time-wise, tragedy plus time equals 30% instead of 41% blaming Donald Trump for all these events in January 6th.
Yeah, in case you missed it there, more Republicans believe Joe Biden was responsible for January 6th than Donald Trump. But I want to say one more time, and they think by overwhelming margins that the Democrats were more responsible than Republicans. It's 52-22. The Democrats dressed up in Trump and MAGA outfits and went to go execute Democrats. And they believe it, they really believe it. And so part of the reason they believe it, though, is because of the alternate reality. In their reality, the illegals came in and voted and Hugo Chavez fixed the elections, et cetera. They really believe it. So they think the Democrats stole the election, so they had that Capitol riot coming. So yeah, maybe the Trump guys did it, but it was the Democrats' fault for stealing the election. So they genuinely believe that. And then finally, going back to Brett's point, look, we covered a lot of religious right-wingers in this country who spoke out against LGBTQ folks. And eventually, the most rabid of them would almost always reveal themselves. And I remember Alan Keyes doing this, and I remember that crazy pastor in Harlem doing this, where they would say, well, look, if you let people be gay, obviously everybody would be gay, so that's why we can't allow it. And we're like, no, everybody wouldn't obviously be gay. They would be all across the spectrum, right? So, and that pastor that came on, and then Anna and I interviewed him, and he said, no, obviously Starbucks is putting semen in the coffee to make it more delicious. Okay, that happened. That was an interview on TYT, okay? And so in this case, though, an unfortunate number of folks are believing, oh, well, Democrats want to molest children. Of course they do, right? And some portion of them, by the way, think that because they were molested, and they think, oh, it happened to me, so I think it probably happens to tons of people or to everybody. And I feel sick to my stomach thinking about how they were abused, and then other people came in and took advantage of their abuse to sell them a bag of goods and to sell them lies, et cetera. And then there's, of course, the other side of the folks who do that type of thing and think that everybody wants to do that type of thing. And so I don't know who's in what camp, but either way, this entire phenomenon is deeply disturbing. And yeah, it's fun to watch that crazy pastor, and those of us in the rational reality think, haha, this guy's crazy, and he says it himself. And that's part of why they get so mad if you quote them. If you just show their tape of what they're saying, they get furious. Like, oh, now what, you're gonna quote me? Okay, right? But a third of the country generally, not specifically with everything he said, but generally believes them and thinks, yeah, the Democrats stole this election. And yes, they're a huge percentage, not a third, but 10 to 15% of the country thinks, yeah, Democrats have sex with children, murder them, and drink their blood. If you don't think that's dangerous, you're not paying attention. I don't know what the end result of this phenomenon is gonna be, but we've got tens of millions of people in this country who have totally lost their minds. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.